Hi, Christopher Avery here. Welcome to my home in Austin, Texas. It's summer and it's hot outside, so we're doing this inside. Ed writes and asks, Christopher, if I give someone negative feedback, is that laying blame? Oh, good question. This is an excellent opportunity to practice responsibility because we get the opportunity to give people feedback lots of times. So listen closely here. Ed, if it feels blamey, it probably is. So if the receiver of feedback receives the feedback and it feels like blame to them, then it's probably not really feedback. So this is really useful to think about. It's probably criticism, and there's a difference between feedback and criticism. We're going to get into that. I'm going to give you tips that I use to give responsible feedback, and I'm going to give you 3 that are important to me. Get permission, show up with pre-approval, and actually give feedback instead of criticism. Let's start with feedback versus criticism. Feedback actually comes from information science, the idea of feedback, and it has to do with sending a tiny signal back to the origin of the information, the person, that allows them to make a change or stay status quo. Criticism is coming from judgment about the person or what they did. If we want someone else to take responsibility for their actions, we want to allow them to take responsibility for what to do with that. So here's the difference. Criticism always comes from good, bad, right, and wrong. You and I have grown up in a criticizing society. So we're really good at criticizing. We're good at being judgmental. So simply check your feedback and ask, are you coming from a place of making the other person either good or bad or right or wrong, or making what the other person did good or bad or right or wrong? If you did, that's likely criticism. Instead, simply tell the other person how what they did landed on you. What did you like about it? What did you not like? What surprised you? What did you learn? What did you appreciate? What didn't land well on you? You can do this from truthfulness, with compassion, and even negative feedback can be received very well because you're not making it about the other person, you're making it about how what they did landed on you and went through your filters. So, next, get permission. One of the things that we've learned in our studies of responsibility is that unwanted help is received as abuse. So just think about an image of a parent or an adult leaning over a 6-year-old at the table and cutting up their meat and their vegetables for them. And the 6-year-old goes, man, get out of here, right? Yeah, it didn't start with, honey, can I cut your meat and vegetables for you? It's unwanted help. It's received as abuse. So, if you want to give feedback, get permission. There's 1,000 ways to get permission. You can have ongoing permission, you can get permission in the moment. If someone asks you for feedback, you can say, are you absolutely sure? And specifically, what do you want me to look at? I'd be happy to. Okay, last point. Do it with pre-approval. In fact, do most of the guidance that you give to others. Do it with pre-approval of them as a human being. Pre-approval, knowing that they are always doing the best they know how, given the circumstances and their mental state at the moment. That means you can trust them to take advantage of the information that you have to give them. You also, when you give pre-approval, you also create much higher levels of safety for them and makes it easier for them to receive what you have to offer. So here's an example. Let's say someone gave a presentation, asked you to attend and give them feedback. Beautiful. All right. Number 1, pre-approval. Remember that humans are always doing the best they know how, given their level of consciousness in that moment, in that situation. So you're not there to correct them as a human being. You're there to approve of them as a human being. Permission. Even though they ask you for permission, double check. Are you sure? Or is there anything specifically that you want my input about? And then feedback versus criticism. So instead of, I thought this was good, I thought that was bad, right, wrong, you should never do this, you should always do this, that's all opinion, right? And it's all biased. Instead of that, a good rule of thumb is to use I statements so that you're owning your feedback to them. Here's some feedback that you might give. I thought you took on a bold challenge. I also thought that you looked really confident and in charge of yourself in the presentation. However, I didn't follow your argument on slides 5 and 6. And for management to buy your proposal, I'm wondering if they will buy your argument there or not too. I may not be your target audience for that, but if you think I am, or if you think I can help, I'd be happy to work with you a little bit to make sure that the points you're making on those slides really drive home what it is that you want. Is there anything else that you'd like feedback from me on? Okay, so there's an example for feedback. I'll remind you that responsible feedback almost never comes from good or bad or right or wrong. It almost always comes from pre-approval of the other party to make good choices and decisions for themselves about what they do with your feedback. So in closing, feedback always honors the ability of another to make their own choices about what they do with the information that you give them. It usually comes from compassion and empathy and from your own truth told with compassion. And it rarely comes from judgments of right and wrong or good or bad, which we know is criticism. So here's what you can do today. Catch yourself thinking a critical thought about what someone else is doing. And then see if you can turn that into a neutral observation, as if you were trying to tell them how what they did landed on you. I thought this, I liked this, I appreciated this, I didn't appreciate this, I found it hard to accept this. And then the next thing is, if you actually want to support them with pre-approval, get permission, and then turn that neutral observation into some feedback for them. So join us at responsibility.com/join. Join our community there, and you will be the first to receive these videos and our newsletters when we have content to put out. Send all your questions to hello@responsibility.com. I look forward to hearing from you.